June 6, 11:37 p.m. Yeah, Umar was born in 583 A.D. or whatnot, and he was born within the Banu Adi clan. And, he came from a pretty wealthy family or whatnot, and the clan that he was born in was a part of, the position that they had was arbitration over other clans. So I'm assuming that a single individual was like some type of governor or advisor of a sort, the position or a title similar to that. But, he was, his father was supposedly some type of, like he was a learned man, and he was known for that, and he was intelligent, and he also knew how to read and write, because the majority of the population of the people in Arabia were illiterate. So Umar was taught how to read at a younger age growing up. His full name was Khattab ibn Umar. And, as he was growing up, he became a merchant as well. Also, some further background information. His mom comes from the Makhzum clan, which is the same clan that Abu Jah came from as well. That's one of the chiefs of Quraysh. But anyway, growing up, he became a merchant, so he'll go north along with other people that will go north and trade as well. And he ventured as far as Iran and Istanbul. Istanbul during this period was the seat of the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire. And like I say, Sassanid Empire were like centered in Iran. But, when he had journeyed there, he learned a lot about their society and how they operated. And he also had the opportunity to come across some scholars or whatnot. So as he got older, that's when he gained the position of being an arbitrator of these other clans within Quraysh. So as far as like the whole revolution that was going on, as far as this newfound religious thought called Islam that Prophet Muhammad was teaching starting in 610, 6 years later, after everything had pretty much unfolded and people were being tortured, etc. I'm not going to go into that because this is really just a correction on one little small fucking point. I had got a fucking name confused. So anyway, 616, that's when you had the second major migration that had occurred as far as people going to Ethiopia, going to the Aksum Mites. One person was Jafar, another person was Azubair. I had got both of their fucking names mixed up. Because actually Jafar, he had stayed in Ethiopia for 12 years. Azubair is the person that came back 3 years later because he heard it was safe. I ain't got their fucking names mixed up. But anyway, in 616, Umar personally, he gave the decision to have Muhammad killed, basically. This is around the time when Muhammad and them, was basically on the run, so he was trying to head north to Medina, which is 200 miles north. So, like, right before he made it outside of Mecca, this is how the fucking story goes as far as a testimony that I had read. I forget the author's name. I got to relook it up later on, but that's not relevant right now. This is for documentation purposes as I build up my shit, you know what I'm saying? On the way of attempting to catch Muhammad, Umar had came across one of his buddies that had a heart-to-heart conversation with him, trying to prevent him from killing Muhammad. And he told him that if he killed him, there's a guy by the name of Hashem that he might have to deal with. Now, Hashem was like ahead of the Hanafi people. Those are the people that, I'm not going to say because I remember what I read about them like over 6 months ago. They basically were fucking Christians. They didn't say that they were Jews, but they did believe in Abraham, which is the father of fucking the Hebrew religion. So he told him that he might have to deal with consequences from that guy because the Hanif people were some of the people that Muhammad can converse with, growing up as well. Even though I got my opinion on in a broader sense as far as what added to Prophet Muhammad's philosophy, but that's not relevant because, like I said, I'm trying to make a fucking correction. Anyway, he warned him with that guy. And then he told him that he needs to worry about getting his own house in order, his own circle, in other words, because his sister and his brother-in-law had converted to Islam. So after this conversation, Umar went and had and basically got into an argument with his sister and his brother-in-law. His brother's name was Saeed. Even though it's spelled Saeed, I'm still going to pronounce it the same way as, Saeed would be pronounced, or Saeed, depending on how, I don't know if he changed that fucking, the vowel sound or not. Anyway, Saeed is spelled S-A and then I-D, apostrophe and then I-D. So I'm going to pronounce it the same way. But anyway, he had an argument with that guy at first, and then his sister jumped into the mix, and that's when they got a little bit more heated. And they were quoting scriptures, not scriptures, but they were basically quoting verses from the Quran wasn't put together at that time, but, basically, I guess Prophet Muhammad's writing. So I guess, he probably had some type of scribe that was making copies for him as well. But, they was quoting words from his writing. And, like I say, he stole off his fucking sister and she fell to the ground. And he felt bad about it. So he tried to apologize to her or whatnot. So he offered, he didn't necessarily offer, but he tried to read some of the literature. And then she told him he had to cleanse himself first. Now, I'm still looking at that part as being literal. So she couldn't. Based on based on the writing itself, I'm looking at it as being literal. The only other interpretation of that saying from her sister would be like, you need to get yourself together, purify your soul. But this all occurred in the moment. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that I don't think it was figurative. But make a long story short, he ended up reading it. The surah was basically an affirmation of God. That's all it was. It was like, okay, I'm God, I'm Allah, I'm real, I'm Allah, I'm real, Allah is real. That's all it was. And so he was convinced by that. So when he continued his journey, he finally came across Muhammad. That's when he converted during that point. And then he remained, Muhammad still ended up leaving, and he made it outside of Mecca, and he had people chasing after him too, and he hid in the cave for a few days. But as far as Umar, he remained there in Mecca, within the tribe of Quraysh, by the way, for 6 years up until 622. That's how the story goes. Now, I got a lot of questions about it, and it's a lot that I doubt about that story, especially the conversation that he had with his sister, as well as his, as it's whole the conversation he had with Muhammad. Now, as far as the conversation with his sister, after he got convinced, there was another guy that had walked in the room, but that's not important right now. But the reason why I doubt that, okay, before I get into that, as far as after he had converted, he was pretty open about it. And so, like, when they all would go to the Kaaba and they would sit there and pray, he made no bounds about, what he believed as far as him now being a Muslim. And then you had the chiefs of Quraysh, Abu Sufyan and then Abu Jahl, who felt some type of way about that. So they had harbored a degree of disdain for the guy. And then this also inspired other people within Quraysh to practice what they believe freely as far as them being new converts to Islam. That's how the story goes. And like I say, he didn't end up going to Medina until 622, which would be the same year that the Constitution of Medina was put together. Now, I got a lot of fucking doubts about this story, right? First one, I'm going to say this. As far as Azubair, all right? Like I say, Jafar and his wife, they remained in Ethiopia for fucking 12 years. His wife, Osama bin Umayr. But Azubair, that was the guy that had came back 3 years later. But the reason why he had came back is because he heard that you had people in Mecca within that tribe that was practicing Islam freely. So it had supposedly became more acceptable to the point where people were out in the open with it. Now, again, if that was all that was said as far as Azubair, then I would say, okay, maybe Umar did become Islam around that period in 616. I would still have questions about the whole conversation he had with his sister and so and so. But as far as Azubair, when he came back to Mecca in 619, he found out that what he had heard was not true. In fact, he had to remain under the radar. You know what I mean? He had to live with somebody else, and he had to be discreet in order to avoid being captured and killed. Now, as far as Prophet Muhammad, him and many of his followers still had ended up leaving during that same year, 616. So in my mind, I feel like this. Okay, Prophet Muhammad, you had three main tribes within Quraysh. Not three main tribes, but three main clans within Quraysh. You had the Banu Hashemites, and then you had the Banu Makhzumites, and then you had the Banu Umayyads. Being that they were the three main clans within Quraysh, that means the Banu Adi clan doesn't have as much, they're not as preeminent as these three. And so if you got this guy that fashioned this religion / philosophy and put this together to the point where people were being tortured and killed, and then he himself and his clan got ran off the land and had to escape tyranny, how is it that somebody of a lesser status of him will be able to accept Islam freely and then go beyond that and basically spit in the face of the people who wanted to kill Muhammad and worship at the Kaaba, and then declare that they're Muslims openly? That doesn't make logical sense to me. So I feel like that part of the story is definitely far-fetched. I feel like whatever that I end up reading, very soon, I'm going to continue this shit tomorrow, reading into this. Whatever documents that I read, there is no way that I could be convinced that that's true. I don't think that happened like that. Now, Umar obviously did convert to Islam eventually because he became the fucking second caliph of the Rashidun period between 634 and 644. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, he was responsible later on for kicking the people off of the land of Kabar, during his reign within that caliphate. But as far as like in 616, the way the story is told from certain authors, because more than likely it's not just one author that has his testimony, because like based on what I read in different stories from people, you always get a lot of similarities from different authors. So I'm pretty sure it's a couple of people who has a testimony about that portion of history that's similar, even though they're not the only ones with a testimony in regards to how that guy became Islamic. So in that sense, those who share that opinion, I don't agree with them on that because that don't make logical sense to me. So that's all I want to say about that so far. But like I say, the major correction I wanted to make is that it was Azubair that came back 3 years later, not Jafar. Like I say, Jafar remained in Ethiopia for fucking 12 years. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. June 6th, fucking 11:51 p.m. Documentation purposes.